All right, guys. Well, another, I guess it's a surprise episode of Frank Fridays. And I had posted some pictures on the VIP tier on Patreon. So I had some of my VIP members and sponsors ask my dad questions. He started his own YouTube channel and he has a book that he has just published. It came out, I think, a week ago. And so I'll tell you guys what the information is to get to his YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it and check out his website and book. I'll let him plug all that at the end. So hi, Dad. Frank.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello. Long time no see. So I'm going to ask you these questions that they sent. I got it on my phone. It's probably the best way to do it. Name 3 things that help a successful marriage last as long as yours has.
Well, first of all, thank you everybody for tuning in, and good to see you again. This is an official Frank Friday Encore presentation. And Ryan has been sort of asking me to do this for a few months now, and here we are. We're things are a little bit different now. We're here in our man caves during the pandemic. But in any event, the question I believe was name 3 things that you did to make your marriage last as long as it has. And this is our 40th year. This summer's our 40th wedding anniversary. We've known each other for 43 years. So let me think. First of all, right off the bat, I think the most important thing was that we both got married relatively late. It's our only marriage. Neither one of us were married or even engaged to somebody prior to the time we got married. But I was almost 36 and Diane was 32 when we got married. So had a chance to sow a lot of wild oats. And I realized that being single wasn't all that romantic a thing. And therefore, I was more mature. I think the second thing was that I personally emphasize pragmatism as much as romanticism. That an awful lot of people, I believe, choose to get married because they're head over heels in love with the other person, but it's not necessarily a rational or pragmatic thing to do. That, and I sort of look back at my earliest days and I could have flaming heart relationships with somebody, but I knew deep down inside that it wasn't going to go anywhere if we ever got married. So a lot of my decision to marry Diane, and probably vice versa, was here is really an extraordinary good human being, and how fortunate it would be for me to marry a person like that. And ironically, one of the things that went through my mind early on was that if something ever happened to me, if I spent the rest of my life in a wheelchair, Diane's the kind of person that I know would be pushing around that wheelchair each and every day with a smile on her face, and that I could count on her. What's been ironic there has been sort of the opposite has occurred, that she's had some health issues. She's, thank God, not in a wheelchair at this point, but she's had some health issues, and I'm the one that's, by and large, pushing her around, at least metaphorically speaking. And she often thanks me, gee, I'm so appreciative of everything you're doing for me. And my basic answer is, if the situation was reversed, I know you would be there for me. And the answer from her is always, I certainly would. So those 2 things, getting married relatively late in life and getting married and placing a significant emphasis on the pragmatic, is this really likely to be a good long-term relationship aspect of it, really trumped the, how head over heels I am about this relationship, which often tends to come and go over time. And I think the third and final thing, it's an excellent question by whoever asked it, is openness. That you could say a lot of things about either of us, but I think anybody that knows Diane and I know that we can't tell a lie, that we're very open and honest about things with one another. And that's pretty important in a marriage. As soon as there's any hint of duplicity or lack of openness, I think a relationship starts to break down. So good question, Ryan.
No, I didn't ask that question. Marcus Soto asked that question. But
Marcus, thank you.
So what is your take on COVID? Yes, that was a good one. My answer, if someone had asked me that, which you didn't, but I'm an attention whore, is how well you can tolerate somebody. I've been in a failed marriage. Now I'm in a good relationship. And me personally, I think it comes down to tolerance. You know, if you can't grow with somebody, you can't sustain a marriage. You know, the love thing, it sounds good, but I think it's more about tolerance, and tolerance means forging compatibility and like learning how to tolerate each other, because everyone has idiosyncrasies, and you need to be able to tolerate the other person. I don't know, that's a more cynical response than my dad's, but he's a better person than me. All right. So, what is your take on COVID-19, the pandemic? Are you for opening the economy, or would you rather the community stay inside longer?
Okay, gosh, uh, wow. A couple questions are inherent here. Number one is that the COVID-19 thing in prisons is an absolute scandal. It's a terrible thing. Uh, but I think out of an awful lot of terrible things come positive results in the long term. And I think that one of the positive things about this tragic uh, infestation that's going on in prisons everywhere in this country is that it's calling attention to a lot of the deficiencies in the prison system and can only help expedite the changes that are so long overdue. The overcrowding is ridiculous. The lack of medical care is ridiculous. Uh, the fact that prisoners are basically just thrown in there and left on their own to live or die is ridiculous. And I think all of those things are going to change over time. I think they would have changed under any circumstance, but I think even more importantly is it's going to expedite that change. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. So that's a positive thing in an otherwise utterly tragic situation. In terms of the opening up economy versus uh, the medical status of the population, I think the most important thing I can say there, and I'm not the first person to say it, is that it's not a mutually exclusive decision. It's not one or the other. That really doing what is most appropriate medically is ultimately going to be most important economically. And there's no doubt in my mind, and as I think Ryan knows, I have a master's degree in public health from UCLA, and so I'm interested and I'm somewhat knowledgeable about these things. And what's very clear to me is that we're just asking for enormous trouble by opening things up much too quickly in a lot of areas of this country. And that's only going to result in much more intense outbreaks coming down the road, which ultimately will result in even more economic chaos, not less. So I certainly lean toward doing everything we can to maintain the rules that basically our top medical public health personnel have laid down.
All right. Good response. And I'll just incorporate one little thought on that. I don't really know. I mean, there's so many people are saying, "Oh, it's not real. It's real. It's a hoax. It's the government plotting on us." I really don't know. But what I have to say about that is, I mean, I think we should, if it was up to me, I would say open back up, leave elderly um, and immune compromised people in quarantine, but the people in the workforce mandate masks and gloves. I don't think it's that difficult to do that. Then you kind of kill two birds with one stone. I think that's just my opinion, though. I don't. What do I know about? I have a GED. You know, I don't know anything about medical stuff. Okay. What makes you the most proud about Ryan?
Well, person I'm looking at on the screen right now, I mean, I think he's, I've never been unproud of him, even in the worst moments. I realize that he's an incredibly special person, that he's very kind, very loving, very caring, very polite, just basically a decent, good human being. And that's probably what makes me the proudest of him.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I am polite. I'm a polite guy. All right. What part of Italy is your family from?
Where
And
are
can you
these
speak
questions
any
coming?
Italian?
Where are these questions coming from? Uh, what part of Italy? Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, a long time ago. My parents were born in New York City and Southwest Pennsylvania, respectively. So I had to go back several generations, and only my father's side is Italian. I have to go back several generations, and I know it's southern Italy, and I believe it's Naples and Brindisi, but I may be missing some stuff, but I believe that's what it is.
Okay. I have to make sure Karina doesn't hear this question. What do you think of Ryan's ex-wife? And do you think that that relationship made his addiction worse?
I've always really liked
Don't say her
all the
name.
wo-
Don't
I've
say her
really
name
sorry.
specifically. Don't say my ex-wife's name, though.
Okay, I really I won't. I really have enjoyed all of Ryan's former girlfriends or wives or whatever status they ultimately attained. I really draw a line between the goodness of people and the fact that they've had addiction issues. That these were all good people that made bad decisions. And in terms of the ex-wife, I saw her melting down in this very house when she was under the influence. But I really liked her as a human being, and as I said, the most important I can share is that you know, and that addiction is a disease, and that good people become addicts.
Okay. Um, do you think that that relationship made my addiction worse?
Yeah, I think that it did. I think that anytime an addict pairs with an addict, you're basically supporting one another's addiction. So it did. Worse is a subjective term. How much worse is the issue? And
Well,
I
I
think it would have still
that's
been a problem.
that's when my drinking problem started. It was in 2016, so that's when I became like a real alcoholic, and I was doing heroin, so I was like lighting the wick at both ends. So yeah, I think it made it considerably worse. My opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a real good idea for an addict to hook up with another addict in a romantic relationship.
How did you take finding out you were going to be a grandfather, and how do you like being one today? And if you remember correctly, you guys weren't exactly on good terms with Karina at that time. So there's been an evolution with that. So I think that's kind of what they're asking. So they know told my pretty much my whole life story episodically. So I mean they know all about that period with her when I used to sneak her in and all that stuff.
Yeah, I do want to clarify that I never ever did not like Karina. Uh, I thought that right from the start, I saw a lot of good in her. So I want to make sure that that's clear. Out of all the women that you've been with over the years, she's the one that I liked the best because I just saw that deep down inside she was a very loyal, decent person, and that's very important to me. And I love her parents too, and I think she obviously comes from a great family. How did I take to the news? Well, when the news came down, you were both in the midst of significant addiction issues. So I was extremely concerned. I felt that probably you should abort the child uh, and shared that with you, and you both were adamantly against doing that.
He
And I
doesn't
was
mean
just
that,
afraid
Nico.
that,
Go ahead.
and
I'm just joking.
yeah, hopefully Nico will never see this video.
Nico, he doesn't mean it.
Just kidding, Nico. Just kidding. That was the key word was initially. I felt that way, but my thoughts were, well, first of all, neither one of them are even remotely near capable of being a parent at this point, and number two is that the child is probably going to be subject to the possibility of if he or she, we didn't know at the point at that time, was conceived when they were both, significantly under the spell of addiction. God knows what that might do to the young child. Uh, but the good news was that it was basically the event that spurred their sobriety. Uh, Karina, right from the start, she was carrying the child, and Ryan caught up not that much later. So it wasn't an issue when the child came along. They were both sober and have been since. Um, and so I really changed. And he was just here yesterday. It was Mother's Day. We were at a safe social distance, but absolutely adorable and love him dearly. And so I'm happy you had the child. I'm happy that he's part of our life.
Me too. Sorry, Nico. We love you now. All right. This pretty similar question. This one is from Mandy Lay. Mandy Lee. I don't know. I'm terrible at pronunciation. She says, I'm interested in how you, like being a grandfather, are you involved in Nico's life? So I guess we can, leapfrog off the last question, piggyback that.
Yeah, the short answer, obviously, I love being a grandfather. Am I involved in Nico's life? Well, we're about, depending upon traffic in Southern California, we're a good 2.5 to 3 hours away from Ryan, Nico, and Karina. So we don't see them more than about once a month. And with with the shelter in place that's going on right now, even less. So not as involved in Nico's life as we would like to be. That said, he's still young. He's not speaking yet. He just turned 2. And I really, really look forward to the next couple of years when I can communicate with him. I can read to him. I can toss the ball around with him. So the best is yet to come.
All right. This is from, I always get her name wrong, Samantha Annett. I think that's right, because I would have said
Arnett, I
Annette.
think.
And so Annett.
I think it might be Arnett.
No, it's
Oh,
Annett. It's Annett.
okay,
I get
go with it.
corrected all the time. All right. So she says, I already know the answer to this. Was there ever a time that you thought Ryan won't make it through this?
Yeah, I won't make it through it. Times I said, "Oh, it's all over." That's sort of another subjective phrase. I never thought he'll never make it through it, but there was times when I was extraordinarily worried and concerned. One was one time after he left a rehab. I don't know, must have been 2015 or 16, somewhere in there. He and a woman that he was with were basically on this Bonnie and Clyde journey throughout Southern California. They had a car and basically nothing else, and they were basically homeless. And I had no idea where Ryan was, just that he was south of here somewhere, Orange County or LA County or wherever. And we just didn't know. And every time the phone rang, and I knew that they were both significantly addicted to heroin. And so every time my cell phone rang, it was that, oh my gosh, please don't let this be the terrible news that I've been dreading. And of course, thank God it never was. So that was one time that I certainly thought that way. I remember once when we got Ryan into a junior college up in Monterey and sent him up there after he had spent some time in dealing with his addiction. And I remember driving up there, and we stopped at some restaurant along the way, and we're having lunch. And I was bringing him up, and we had this U-Haul with a bunch of furniture for his one bedroom apartment that he had. And I remember Ryan just clearly wasn't ready, and it was clear that he wasn't ready nor committed at all to doing what he had to do. We were sitting in the restaurant, and I really got choked up. And I'm not a crier. I've probably cried, and even when I say crying, I mean I choked up maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. When each of my parents died, remember when Robert Kennedy died, I got very upset. But by and large, I'm not a crier. And I remember some tears started coming down, and I also remember that it was okay. I thought, it's probably a good idea for Ryan to see this, that his father is so concerned that tears are coming down, something I don't think he's ever seen before or since from me. So that was a point that I really thought Ryan's just not ready to turn this around, is not going to turn this around. So I think that would be another time when I really felt that just not going to happen. And the third was in late November of 2017, just before Ryan went in for his last stint and was really going through what appeared to me to be a period of psychosis. And that was very frightening as well. So those three things.
We're in that right now. We're in that series right now.
You're in a psychosis moment right now?
No, I'm not in psychosis right now. Maybe later this afternoon. In the chronology of the stories that I tell, we're in that period. And
okay.
You crying in Monterey, no recollection of that.
Yeah,
I was probably under the influence or something. But to clarify, 2016, he's talking about when I was with Haley, and we that was from the Relapse series. Second part, Monterey, I don't even know if I've gone over that. I don't even think I've gone over that period. That's like a whole series that I've never really talked about. But I lived with Paul, my friend that just died. He was my roommate during that period. I don't know if I've ever talked about that period. I'm not sure. Then the last period is the breakdown, which we're talking about now. Just to clarify, what do you think was the worst out of all of those? Out of every period?
When you and Haley were roaming around Southern California, we had no idea where you were, what you were doing. We're not talking about days. We're talking about probably a couple months. It was a tough, tough time. We didn't know if you'd be alive the next day.
Yeah, honestly, in retrospect, I would consider that even close to like one of the worst. I'd say the worst period for me was when I was living in that house on Milpas was probably the worst for me. Florida was a horrible time for me. Uh those are probably the worst. I mean, obviously that my first Fed term, that wasn't that wasn't an easy time for me either. But as far as addiction goes, I'd say probably the worst was when I was 20, 21. Um, that's the period that I have all the footage of. And a lot of you have seen it's in the documentary. Okay, we'll go on to the next.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up to that. I think it's a prime example of a parent's perspective versus the addict's perspective is that, you know, most of these things I was removed. I didn't really know exactly what was going on. So it's just an example of the less observation you have of what's going on. Like when Ryan was roaming around Southern California, we had no idea what he was doing. The darkness, the absence of really knowing what was going on was the troubling thing, not the reality necessarily.
Yeah, honest to God, it was. I mean, you guys know that. That's when I got the cellulitis. I lived with the tranny down in San Diego with Haley. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. I mean, that those pictures of me like on Cameo where I'm like, and I have like all the acne. That's from that period. So maybe I was doing bad. I don't know, but I don't know. That wasn't my worst in my opinion. But anyway, all right. This is another one from Samantha. Were you embarrassed to tell friends, colleagues, family that Ryan was going to jail or
Absolutely,
prison? I don't know.
yeah, absolutely not. It's a good question, but absolutely not. Uh, it varies, and the way I deal with things and the way somebody else deals with the same thing can be very different, and they're both right. But in my case, I get great comfort from other people, uh, understanding and knowing what's going on in my life. Really blessed, both personally to have incredible numbers and quality of friends, and professionally, my background is in healthcare, so they generally tend to be pretty sensitive people. And I was very open about everything. I think my wife Diane was less so, but eventually came around to recognizing that it's comforting, not harmful, to share this information with other people. And you know what? Anybody that I knew that knew Ryan had as much confidence in him as my wife and I had in him at the time as well.
Yeah, my parents have always been pretty. They're like me. They just don't really hide stuff. It's just I don't know, pretty open. There's some people that are really like private and secretive. I've never been like that. My parents certainly. I probably learned that from them. We're not really like that. If you could narrow down everything, what is the one thing that Ryan has done that has made you the most proud? I hope you say Nico.
uh, of course, you answered your own question. Um, you know what? There isn't one thing. It's just being the person that he is deep down inside. I think the growth, the incredible growth that I've seen. He's only been out of prison now for less than 14 months, and what he's done in those 14 months, not necessarily in terms of accomplishments. That's been extraordinary. What he's done with everything in his professional life. But that's not the point. The point is the person that he has become in the last 14 months. That's what I'm proudest of.
Thank you. All right. Um, this is a good one. Did Ryan's addiction ever come between you and Diane, my mom?
Absolutely zero. I think it's sort of a metaphor for what the whole world is going through right now in the pandemic. We're in this together. And the way Diane and I looked at it is Diane, myself, and Ryan were in this together. It was a family of three, and addiction is a family illness. It's not an individual illness. And we had to deal with it as a team. And I think we really stuck together very, very well. The hardest thing I had was when I found out about 5 o'clock one afternoon on April 1st, 2009, that Ryan was going into federal prison for, at that time, could have been as long as 10 years. We got one charge dropped and went down to 5. He got out after 4. But she was working, and I was sitting there in the house waiting for her to come home for about an hour. And a car pulls in the garage. And I hear her coming in, and it was very, very, very hard to tell her about this, about Ryan, what had happened to Ryan that day. And she broke down and cried. And it's the only time in all these 20 years or so that Diane's cried or lost it because of anything that happened to Ryan. So that was the hardest thing. But you know what? It strengthened our relationship. It did not harm it in any way.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. And technically, I was discharged from the BOP October 29th. We don't count April 9th. April 9th's when I got out of Oxford, but when you're talking about Vinewood and actually like the incarceration, was a 60-month sentence, which is 5 years. So it's about, what is that? 4 years, 6 months is what it ultimately,
That's right.
which is ludicrous for what I did, by the way. I mean, it's crazy. And then they, I don't know, I don't want to get into that, but yeah, I deserve something, but like almost 5 years of my life like that. And then not to mention all the probation that followed and the violation. It's just, I don't know. It's insane. I don't think that makes you better. I think that makes you way, way worse. Okay. This is the last question. Hi, Frank. Pick one, go back 10 years in time, or change one thing that has happened in the past. This question got cut. I don't know. I have a screenshot of it, so I don't know the second part of that question. So just pick one thing in the last 10 years that you could change if you could.
I'm not going to call it 10. I'm going to call it 20, the whole period that you and I have been dealing with this, or all of us have, all three of us. I would say probably the one thing that, well, first of all, I want to really point this out, that the player that had the highest batting average in the major leagues last year hit 335. It means that they were unsuccessful about 64%, 66% of the time they went to bat. And I think, again, it's a metaphor for understanding that when you're dealing with anything, you're going to make mistakes. And, I think I did a wonderful job. I think Diane did a wonderful job in dealing with Ryan's issues over the year. And guess what? We made a ton of mistakes as well. So I think the first thing that any parent or family member or loved one needs to know is that you're not going to be perfect, and understand it, live with it, and move on. Don't look back. That said, if there's one change that I could have made more than anything else, it would be a question of consistency. Remember, many years ago, Ryan said to me, and again, Ryan is very open. He's great. He said to me, Dad, one of the things that drives me crazy is I do some really bad things and you overlook them, and I do some really minor things and you make a big deal of them. Well, I guess I screwed up there. But I think there was inconsistency, that I would treat certain things a certain way and similar things a different way. And I think that especially when Ryan was younger, I mean, this whole thing started when he was 15, it sends mixed messages.
All right. Well, that's that. Thank you. That concludes, if I could change one thing, I guess, I don't know. I don't know what I would change. Maybe heroin, probably. It's probably like the one thing that I really regret out of all the stuff. The other drugs I was able to get away from, that's the one that seemed to like really take me down the most consistently. Like alcohol was really easy to walk away from, but heroin, you're talking about probably since 2002. That's almost 20 years of heroin addictions. It's a long, long time. I regret that. I wish I never tried it, is what I'm saying. I wish that I just stayed away from opiates altogether. So is there anything you want to add? Do you want to plug your book, your channel? I will leave all the links in the pinned comments to make it easier for you guys. But why don't you explain what you got going on, and you guys follow him or subscribe to him and go check out his website and book. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I do want to, there was one other question that that Ryan shared with me that I do want to quickly cover. It was from somebody named Peter Johnson. I am 20 years old and currently dealing with a serious drug addiction issue. What advice do you have for my parents? I think it's an excellent question. I don't want to miss out on it. First of all, it varies. Different parents, different people should deal with it differently. There's no cut and dried black and white rule in dealing with this. I think if there's a lesson I learned, though, it's don't be hard on yourself as a parent. The infamous 3 C's, you didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it, is so true. At the end of the day, it's really up to the addict themselves. It's when they're ready. One thing I've learned is when the addict's ready is when the recovery really can begin in earnest. And then I would also like to add, for any parent going through it, to seek help. You're not alone in this. There's enormous resources in every community out there. And then also not to minimize the whole notion of dual diagnosis, but a lot of times addicts also are dealing with some sort of psychological issue, and that door should be left open for analysis as well. So wanted to throw all that in there. And anyhow, thanks for giving me an opportunity to mention something about what I'm doing professionally these days, because pretty exciting. I retired 3 years ago and didn't think I'd be doing anything. Got involved in Frank Fridays, saw the power of YouTube, and got inspired. So I've done a couple things. And one is I have written a book, which I think personally, I think it's the best thing that I've ever done in my life. The book is called 77 Ways to Perfect Your Communication Skills, Enhancing Your Personal and Professional Relationships. And it's a very easy to read book, full of personal anecdotes, a lot of humor, and very, very easy to read, and gets right to the issues. So I can't recommend it enough. I'm thrilled with it. It's selling very, very well. It's just been available for a couple of days. And it can be accessed on our website. The company, myself and a partner named Mitch Goddard, who's a leadership expert, I'm the communication expert, started something called the 77 Group, and you can go to our website. I think it's pinned to this presentation, but it's 77GRP, the abbreviation for group.com, and you could go there and check out the book. There's a very nice sample chapter there about negotiation, and I hope some people will buy the book. I think it's available in hardcover, softcover, and within a matter of days, ebook as well. So that's the first half of it. The second half of it is that I enjoyed doing this so much that Mitch and I thought, wow, why don't we start our own YouTube channel and each episode cover one of the chapters in our respective books. Mitch, my partner, is doing a book on 77 ways for effective leadership. He's an extraordinary leader, a very different background than mine, which is nice because we sort of supplement one another. But we each have 77 chapters. That's 154 potential episodes. Number 3 was just added this morning, and number 4, 5, 6, and up to 154 will be coming down the road. And again, that's pinned there. And if you don't look at the pin, you can just look up Frank Leone Communication or Mitch Goddard Leadership or the 77 Group, and probably find it there. So again, you people that have taken the time to watch me on all mine, if you can subscribe and like, and very important, comment. If you do watch things on our YouTube channel, that would be very helpful as well. But again, I love doing this, and to me, the bottom line is if a single person somewhere on this planet can watch this particular encore episode and learn something from it, then the time has been well spent. So Ryan, thank you, and it's fun to do these with you.
Yep, and sorry for this fantastic artwork that I have. Let this not reflect my father's attitudes and opinions. I don't think he's ever snorted blow off a stripper like me. It's me though. But thank you, Dad. Love and appreciate you. Thank you for all you've done for me. And I think that I speak for everyone when they say the same.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Talk to you soon. Palabra.